Alright guys, we're back again. So, every YouTube video channel ends up with some drama. And this is probably about the worst drama that I have to deal with. And that's the sad reality that this is the last time that the K24 is going to be in the Krown. So sadly, now that the air suspension's all functioning and the body's all coming down and everything's all starting to work together, the motor's too big. It's just far too big of an engine to be fitting into this engine bay. So essentially, to have this sitting where I want it sitting, comfortably in the chassis and that, it's hanging out the bonnet 90 mil, which is a fair slab. Now, I've had just about everyone throw solutions at me. Why don't I scoop it? Because I don't want a bonnet scoop on this car. If anything, maybe the smallest one at most, or maybe just a little bit of a lift up in the bonnet skin, but I don't want a scoop on this car. It's not at all how I want this car to look whatsoever. And I'm not gonna scoop a car for the sake of having a motor in there. This car's not at all about horsepower. The whole reason for the K-swap was because I could pick up this, I pieced this all together, and where it's sitting right now with all the engine mounts laser cut out, designed, the motor in, the bell housing, the gearbox, everything all sort of starting to happen before I started getting invested into buying all the rear-wheel drive manifolds and all of that sort of stuff, and making turbo manifolds and that. I put this together cheaper than what I could buy a clapped out 300,000 to 400,000 kilometer 3RZ for that didn't have any bolt-on accessories, no wiring looms, no nothing. So I picked this up cheaper, pieced this together, cheaper than what I could have bought a motor by itself with no box or anything. In most of your performance style of engines, that's just the way it is. As soon as people know something's going to make power, the price skyrockets. Now, I've got this for sale at the moment, and it's probably the cheapest decent power making motor and setup that you'll find on marketplace. It's cheaper than any just 3RZ engine by itself and stuff, but all I want back is what I've put into it. But long story short, the motor's too tall. The block is, from memory, I'll go over it in a minute, around the 530 mark tall. No, I'll go over that in a minute. I've got to get the tape out because it's been a few days since I've found all of this. So we'll get the tape out in a minute, we'll go over that. But the motor is very tall. Now, everyone's like, why don't you dry sump it? Why don't you do a custom sump? Because the sump's not the problem. Custom sump's perfectly fine. I have no issue making a custom sump. My problem is the block hits on the steering. Why don't you change the steering? Because the block hits where the rack's going to end up if I switch it from a push-pull to a rack. Plus, I'm trying to keep the push-pull because the push-pull, the way that's set up in this car, gives me a lot less bump steer when the wheels are in motion through the travel of the suspension. So the push-pull is actually a better scenario for this car than what putting a power steer, putting a rack in it is. And I actually have a K70 steering rack in there, which pretty much I could easily get to work and have looked into putting the K70 rack in. But when I was sitting it in and going through all the motions and everything and sort of mocking it up, the push-pull steering was far superior to what the rack was actually going to be with the air suspension and the travel and everything. So it's going to be a lot nicer to drive if I keep the push-pull. So I'm trying my hardest to retain that. Worst comes to worst, I will put the rack steering into it. But that's one problem. The other problem I have is with the motor down, the lower the motor goes, the lower all the accessories go. Now these things have a water pump built into the housing with all the pulleys and everything on it. Now that pulley and everything on there sits right down into the chassis rail, which I'll show you in a minute. I'll revisit all of this, but actually walk around the the motor and show you exactly what's going on. But that also hits, so it's not just up and down. I'm starting to come into issues from side to side now with my pulley system. So the pulley system's causing an issue. Yes, I was planning on putting the electric water pump on, which changes that, but all of the aftermarket electric water pump housings and stuff that go on the side of the K24s put the alternator really low, which again hits on that. And I can't bring the alternator up too much because at the moment I can't run the front wheel drive intake anymore, which I was going to run on it because it completely fit before I did all the air suspension and started to get the car how I wanted it. So the next drama was all the manifolds. The manifolds were becoming an issue. So it's all just starting to go from one extreme to another. People were like, why don't you do a dry sump? Well, again, apart from the block hitting, the steering being down where I needed it to be, it also ends up being, just wait for this car to go past. Oh, that's right, I've got the microphone. Anyway, it also ends up being that the dry sump is going to cost an absolute fortune. So to put a dry sump on it, that's even more money. So I have to buy an intake manifold. You can add $900 there just for the K-Power one. Around $2,000 if I'm lucky for a dry sump kit. Then I need the whole tech, $3,500. You can see where I'm going here with this. This is all starting to blow completely out of the water for a car that isn't engine focused. This is not what this car is about. I have zero intention on racing this thing, zero intention of doing stupid burnouts and carrying on like a pork chop. Don't get me wrong, I love all of those things. It's all great, but that's not what this car is about. This car is just for me to cruise around, lay it out, go out to cars and coffees, go out to like cruises, car meets, that sort of thing. Just get myself out of the shed for a while and enjoy a car. And I ain't going to enjoy it if I'm sitting in here stressing over a motor that's costing me an absolute fortune when there's like far better scenarios that I can put to work. Now I have got a few different options in line, and I've gone through just about every engine you could imagine, right down to a rotary. I will not put a rotary in this thing. It does not excite me in the slightest. I've looked into SR20s, I've looked into CA18s, 3S GTE, the early Toyota 3T GTE I think it was. Looked into so many different engines, even to the point where if a 22R ends up in here, I wouldn't be upset. I'd just do a 22R turbo in there. It is what it is. It's essentially all I want from this car is to be able to take it out, drive around, be able to do highway speeds without feeling like everyone's overtaking me in like MGs and stuff like that. Like just to be able to drive around in this comfortably, not be afraid of seeing a hill and worrying about having to get everyone out of the car so I can make it up the hill. So nice cruising engine is what I'm after. Simplicity now is what I'm after also, because after messing with this, it was a bit complex and it was a lot of fun working with this. I was so excited, so it's sort of gutted me a little bit having to remove the K24 from this build, because it really set it in stone for me, but here's what it is. It's not what the car's about. But also, I just want to enjoy things, so it's just got to be simple. Keep it simple, keep it nice. If I simplify things, I'm also maybe able to run air conditioning in this thing, which would be amazing, and I will work on getting the aircon into this if I find the right motor that's narrow and low enough to get that onto one of the sides. So the joy is, at the moment, I don't have any power steering on this car. I plan to keep it this way. The front tyres are pretty narrow, they're only 15, so steering wise, as long as I don't put a tiny steering wheel or anything on it, keep it reasonable, it'll steer fine, it'll be perfectly fine. But should I need power steering, I'll just venture up to the Astra power steering and that sort of thing. So there's ways around all of that stuff that isn't break the bank kind of stuff. So with that being said, Sadly, the K has to go. So what we'll do now is we'll do a bit of a walk around in close detail, and I'll show you exactly where I'm at with things. So let's have a bit of a look at it. Alright, so let's deep dive into this a bit closer and look from the bottom up and see what we can see. So essentially where this is at now is, as I still have to bring it up another few mil to get the steering to clear. So at the moment, if you look under here, you can see it looks like it's clearing. Happy days, right? Not so much. The steering rack still, steering box still isn't on the mounts properly. So to get the steering up more to where it needs to be, I've got to bring this up another 40 mil. So that's 40 mil up. No problem, right? Except for the Z notch and the channeling and everything going on with this car. The car actually has to come down. What was it? So I worked it out at 90 mil. So I've got to come up 40 with the motor. So that means I've got to come down 50 with the body and the mount and everything like that to get the body back on and everything to sit where I want it to sit. So it doesn't sound like much. It's only 50 mil. But when you're adding stuff together, 40 mil, 50 mil, all that sort of jazz, everything. Yeah, I'm fighting millimeters with this car on everything. But also, I'm doing it properly and making sure that everything has proper clearances on stuff. So I'm not, if I hit a bump, not everything's bashing on stuff. Like, I'm doing my utmost to make this car drive beautifully, because that's what I want to do with it. I want to drive this car. I want to enjoy this car. I want to get in the car and be excited to drive it. I don't want to get in it and go, oh, this vibrates, this rattles, that shakes, which is another reason why I'm kind of not upset about getting rid of the K series either, because when that's done, these things have a vibration on them. Now, I was using a rubber mount in that, which reduces it a lot and that sort of thing, but also I was so invested in this that I was happy to deal with that side of things. But anyway, let's waffling on too much about things that don't really matter. So if we come around here, 40 mil up, I start to clear the water pump, clear the oil filter and stuff. This is where my problem really lies with my side to side now. So up and down is already an issue because I'm 90 mil above the bonnet line. This has become a problem because of this big thing. So right here I have the water pump housing and all of that jazz. No alternator on it yet. And ideally the motor's sitting where I need it to sit, to be under the bonnet line, which is why it's there. So you can see already, for me to have this motor comfortably under the bonnet without modding the bonnet or having it stupidly, the steering's already clashing on the block and everything, and I haven't even got it into position yet. And as you can see, that stud there has to go into that top bolt hole there, and for that to happen, as you can see, it's right into where my steering and stuff is. Now, like I said, I can put the electric water pump housing and stuff on it, but the problem is all it does is push the alternator up slightly. So I'm losing all of this, but my alternator pretty much sits there anyway. So I can't run the alternator there. I possibly could relocate the alternator to this side high mount, but again, it's more stuffing around, it's more time, it's more craziness I'm trying to get involved in. That if I just picked a better engine that wasn't quite as big for this particular car, I'm not saying a K series is a terrible motor, I'm saying for this car, it's not a good motor anymore. It's not going to work out the way I want it to work. And that's the thing. It's not how I want it to work. So when I bring this down, we'll see where we're at. And down we go. Don't mind the hoist creaky noises. I have new seals in the hoist and they still haven't softened up yet, so they're nice and creaky, just like me. And we're starting to come down now. So this thing's going to be hard on everything in a minute. Hopefully nothing's moved since it's been sitting here. Okay, that's the body down. So the body is down now. Now it all looks really, really good. Trust me, if this is how it was sitting, perfect, happy days. Look at that. It's really nice in there. Was so happy with this, as we remember in my earlier videos. But so much is clashing now. So to get this comfortable in this car, I have to unpick these mounts and bring these mounts up, because you have to remember the body still has to go down more. So I've still got another 50 mil to go down on the front. So let's grab this ruler. Where's 50? There we go, there's 50. So I still have to come down another 50 on that guard, and that's where the body's at, 50. So I'm heavily tucking, which is what I want. That's the whole point of this thing. So now if we go here, you can see it's pretty good where it's sitting there, and then we add 40, so we're up here. Let's go to 90. We're up here. That's 90 mil where the engine sits comfortably in this car. Now remember I said also I would measure the block and stuff. So if we come around here, stick the ruler in there. Now my lowest point is just there. So the block on this thing, from what I can see, is 320. That's stuff I can't change. So from the bottom of the block, we're not talking about the sump because the sump can be modified. From the bottom of the block to the top of the motor is about 530. That's like a solid half a metre of motor. Yes, I can get the low profile rocker cover, but that only drops me 20 mil. So, and again, sure, it's getting me closer, but the dollar value is going up and up and up and up. So it's just costing more and more and more and more to get the motor in. And I'm just battling to get this motor in it. Not to mention the fact that also I have to cut the tunnel out for the motor to go up 90 mil to clear. So if this was a littler motor and it cleared and I had all of this clearing the sump and everything, so reduce my block size and everything, and SR is significantly smaller than what this K is. So from here, this is very hard. I filmed this by myself, so I'm sorry if you're a bit drunk from this. From the back of the bell housing bolt, that's 90 mil. That's 90 mil I have to cut out of the firewall. So that's a big cut. That's a very big cut, which also makes the tunnel inside the car huge. And I don't want a tunnel in the car that big. I don't need an armrest. I really don't. Not that badly anyway. So, sadly, everything's just too complicated. Now, I wasn't really going to bother making this video, but obviously I've been so invested into this K-Series going into the Krown that I had to let you guys know what was going on. Because if I just drop the fact that all of a sudden I've got a 22R in here opposed to the K-Series, everyone's going to be thinking that I got rocks in my head, which I'm sure if a 22R manages to go in this, I'm going to cop some heat from it. And it is what it is. I'm going to cop heat from my mates for putting a 22R in it as it is. As it is, I'm copping flack because I'm pulling the K-Series out to make the car nice. So, because at the end of the day, the Krown does look nice, just left alone. Like on those billets, tuck and rim, laying on the ground how it should look, it's gonna be unreal. So I don't see why I should sacrifice what I'm after for the sake of a motor that I'm really not even going to use the potential of. At most, my horsepower goal was 200 to 250. Anything over that was going to be more than what I wanted from this car. So that's not even working that engine whatsoever. That's almost stock form for that thing. So it's really a waste of a motor being in this car, to be honest. Like, if we're being very truthful about things, I was wasting a K-Series on this car. I could get that out of just about anything these days with a turbo on it or a bit of work. So that's pretty much where I'm at. So sadly, the K-Series won't be going in the Krown. I'm obviously going to have to find a new name for it because I can't call it the K-Rown anymore. So yeah, we just got to wait and see what engine comes up that measures out correctly in the meantime. But for now, the main focus is I'm going to rip this motor out. I'm going to wrap it all up, store it away. I've got a few people interested in it already, which is good, which means I can move it on and hopefully to a better home. Move the engine on and then focus on getting the body where it needs to go. Get the body down on the car, which you'll start seeing. I'm going to be doing some work on this shortly. Get all those mounts changed, get the body down, get the front horns done, finish off the Z notch properly, do all of that stuff, get the body exactly where I want it to be, and then start measuring out the motor and stuff like that, because essentially for where I'm looking to be, I have so many variations of engine that will fit this car. It's just sadly that K24 is so big. Yes, I could have went to a K20, which is a smaller motor, but I'm still fighting a few millimeters here, a few millimeters there. It's not really working out to be the significant drop I need without a lot of work and money and all of that sort of stuff. And I don't get influence money because I'm not influencing anyone. If anything, this is me not influencing people to buy a K-Series. So, but I'm all for it. If you can get one of these things in your car in a rear-wheel drive format, that's ripper. Go for it. I wish I had the spare money that I could go buy another engine setup and then get like a TA22 Celica or a KE70, something cool, even a Hilux, a little Trayback Hilux or something, stick the K-Series in it, build that up and actually wring its neck for horsepower and have some fun with it. But I don't have that kind of money. I'm heavily invested in this. This is my bucket list car. This is the last like insanely big chop up car that I will ever build for myself as far as I'm aware. So I just want it right. I want it how I want it without sacrificing things for the sake of other people's opinions on motors. So probably a bit controversial, but is what it is. And long story short, I just can't get the K in. So I need to rip this out, keep focusing, keep moving along, keep progressing, because I still have to get this car to halfway havoc this year. That is my personal goal. So to get this car to halfway havoc, I've got to ignore the engine for now and get this suspension all on air, doing what it needs to do, and see how far I can push this thing before I get there. How much progress I can make and what I can do to it. and hopefully between now and July I can come up with another engine combo. So hopefully, if all goes well, I can buy a complete vehicle which will give me absolutely everything I need. The motor, the box, the wiring loom, the silly little parts inside the car that I need to do this sort of thing, all of that sort of stuff, because there's a lot of there's a lot of this Krown that I can't use because of how old it is and all that stuff, and I can't get parts for it, so I have to change stuff. Same as the disc brake conversion, I've had to use a lot of Hilux stuff because it's just one of those sort of cars. So, but that's it for this one. Hopefully you guys can figure out why, sadly, I can't run the K anymore. I'm sure in the comments section I'm going to be like, you could do this, you could do that. Yeah, I'm sure I could. I take everything on board, but 100% I've been through every possible scenario I can with this motor, and it ain't going in there. It's just not going to happen. No way, shape or form is that thing going in there. There's big things in little holes don't work sometimes, and this is one of those situations, and it's just not going to work without destroying it. So that being said, that's it for this one, and I'll catch you on the next one when the K's out and I'm starting to progress more on getting this body to where it needs to be, because I'm super excited to see this thing doing the thing, going up and down and starting to look like a full car again. So heaps of progress to come, lots of work to go, lots happening this year, and I've already made so much headwind on it all. I'm excited to see where this all ends up. So thanks for sticking around, all that sort of jazz, and I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.